Alright, so you got yourself a Ford. We have an 03 back here, and sooner or later you're going to have to change the ball joints. Today I'm going to show you how to put a lower ball joint in. It's not the easiest job in the world, and you may not be able to do it yourself without torches or a ball joint press. I'm going to show you how to do it without a ball joint press with a simple hydraulic jack. If you try it at home, well, I can't be responsible, but I'm going to walk you through the steps. Alright, now just because it's a Ford doesn't mean there's anything bad about it. Every maker has their own problems, and you'll be putting ball joints on your GM or your Dodge, some sooner than others, like the newer stuff, 07 and up on Dodge and Ford. They seem to be really terrible. I'm not sure about the GM. I don't know if there's not that many GMs in the area, but we see a lot of Fords and a lot of Dodges at about 50,000-60,000 kilometers with ball joints falling right out of it. Anyway, let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do is take the tire off here, and I'm not going to bore you with that. We'll get the tire off and we'll go from there. Alright, with the wheel off, first thing we're going to do, because we have to remove the spindle to get the lower ball joint. If you're just doing the top ball joint, it wouldn't be as bad. From here you would just disconnect your cotter pin right here, take that nut off, and either use a ball joint separator, pickle fork, or hit it here with a hammer, and then take these off here and here. I'm not sure what size of bolt they are, but you'd have to hold it one side and the other side you have to turn it off. And try to keep an eye on where the shims are and washers and put them back exactly the right place. So some of these are adjustable and some aren't. This one doesn't look like it's adjustable. Anyway, we're doing the lower ball joint today. I just did the lower ball joint and wheel bearing on the other side, and I should have filmed the wheel bearing because it was bad. Anyway, it looks like I got some crap on there. I need to take that off. Anyway, we're going to remove, first thing we're going to do is remove the caliper and the caliper shoe. And bolt sizes may vary. I think this one's a 14 and an 18. For the caliper shoe down here is an 18 millimeter right there, and that one I think is a 14. And the reason we're doing this, you're gonna have to pull this off, the axle out too. You're gonna see why in a minute. And the reason we're doing this, because the way the ball joint is made, you need to take that spindle right out of there in order to get that ball joint. You see it's kind of hanging on the ball joint right there. And the only way to get it is take your axle. Anyway, you're going to see in a second. Alright, first things first. Let's get this out of the way, and we'll be right back. Okay, I correct myself. This one was a 13 mil. It'll depend on if your truck's already had calipers or not. And we'll flop this to the side. Okay, I suggest you tie your caliper up somewhere out of the way so you don't pull on the flex hose too much or the ABS wires. And zoom out so you can see. I'm going to flop mine here for right now. Now from here I suggest you spray PB Blaster, WD-40, whatever you got, on your nuts. Now if you don't have a compressor, it might have been a good idea to remove this axle nut before you took your rotor and your caliper shoe and your caliper off. Then you could have a buddy hold on to it, hold the brakes where you're undoing this nut, because they are on quite tight. I think Ford is, I don't know, you're gonna have to check for your model. It could be anywhere from 180 to 200 some foot-pounds, that torque on that nut. So unless you have a compressor, you have to back up a bit and have your brakes on, or have the wheel on the ground, take the center hubcap out, and get on there and take that nut off first. What we're gonna do now is work on the cotter pins. We need this one to come out of the hole because we need to save that upper ball joint. The bottom one doesn't matter. We can break the cotter pin off and then take the nut off. Okay, I'm going to show you on this cotter pin because it's easy to get at. If it's loose like this, it's normally free. Anyway, we're going to straighten it out, and a lot of times you should be putting new cotter pins back in no matter what, but a lot of times there's people that just have to save them. But you see how I'm trying to straighten out the pigtail of it, like so, like that, and then we're going to grab a hold of this end here somehow. Oh, right there, and turn it out. A lot of times you can grab it like this and pry outwards on it. It'll come right out, just like that. So I'm going to try to do the same thing with this one-handedly. I straightened the pigtail already out with my finger, so I'm going to try to grab onto it. This one I need to come out, so I don't need the hole to be all plugged up. I need to put a cotter pin back in it. The bottom one's not going to matter because I'm changing it. Anyway. Alright, before I go to and remove any of my nuts here, I'm going to hook the ABS wire. Oops, and don't drop your caliper like I just did. Anyway, like that. Make sure it's all unhooked from there. And you see that one there? Just reach up in the side of there. Should pull right off. Oh, sorry, it's right there. It's just plastic, so bad camera work. Sorry, guys. Should pull right out. Should. Okay. It's like this. You should. I'm doing this one-handed there. Now get that right out of there, and we're going to save this. Wrap it around like so. We don't want to damage that at all, since this one's still a good wheel bearing. Alright, like I was saying, there's different ways to take this nut off. I'm going to show you one that, because I don't want to get the compressor out right now, but not just that, I want to show you how to take it off without using air tools. You get something like this. Now be very careful you don't damage your studs. And it's probably on there pretty tight. So. Like that. And this one right here is a 36 millimeter. It could be different in your situation. Same with your ball joint nuts up here and lower. If they've already been changed, the sizes will vary from what I'm using. Anyway, once you get it crack free, go ahead and remove that. Alright, now we're going to work on the upper ball joint. And turns out it's a 13/16 or a 21. And I've already taken the cotter key out of there. And this one's going to be stubborn. Now, it would be a lot faster with the impact tools and the such, but a lot of people don't have an air compressor at home or whatever. Anyway, take that off, then we're going to work on the bottom one. Alright, so after you got your upper and lower ball joints undone, the next step is to get it to let go of the spindle. Now, if you're not concerned about saving the top, you're replacing it, by all means use a pickle fork, but if you're trying to save the top, it's still good. If you use a pickle fork, you're going to cut the rubber. And once you cut the rubber, it's going to let all kinds of water and other nasty shit in there. And you don't want that. So, I'm going to show you an easy way to get it out without that. You put your earplugs in. Now I'm going to use a BFG, BFH I should say, and you're going to smack it like it owes you money. Hit it as hard as you can, right there. Don't be worried about this thing flying all over the place. The shocks still support it, and I still have my jack under the A-frame, or A-arm. But the shock will keep this from the lower A-frame from flying right out of there. So if you have it on the hoist, that's, you know, hit it. Just like that. Okay? And I don't know if you can see this or not. Sometimes you have to use a punch and an air hammer on your axle, let go. Like that. Now, because I have it, I'm going to use the pickle fork on the bottom, just because it's easier. And it kind of limited how I can swing here. I'll put my caliper back up there. Actually, I could probably get that here. Just, I don't know if I'm in your way or not. Can't really swing. Anyway. I can't get a swing on it. Anyway, just a second. Alright, so now if I can swing in there or not. I use my pickle fork here. Make it a little easier on myself. Anyway, get that knocked out of there next the same way as the top. Okay, so after a lot of cursing and swearing, my ball joint's out. Now, here's the tricky part. You gotta push the axle in. Like so, and remove it. Just let that hang. Do not drop it, or it could damage your tie rod end. But you know what? If that tie rod end falls off from that swinging, then you need a new one anyway. Anyway, pull that axle up of the way. I suggest tying this axle with a zip tie to that sway bar so it doesn't fall down in your way. It's starting to rain out. The dog's going crazy. Oh yeah, I know a guy like that black truck. But anyway, next day I'm going to show you how to pop this ball joint out. Alrighty, this will have to be in a two-part. I'll see you next night. Alright, so your next step is going to remove this lock ring. Even if you have the lock ring pliers, it's been there a long time. I mean, you can soak it with WD-40, but I'm going to show you how to take it off. Since you're probably never going to reuse it, just pull her off. Now, if you're going to reuse it, I would have broke it free from this side too, and just there, get rid of that. You don't want to drive over that in the driveway. Over there. Okay, so I suggest cleaning up around here if you can. And if you forgot your die grinded like I did at work, then that might be near impossible. But anyway, clean up that rust, especially along this leading edge right here on this ball joint. Now, I've taken the grinder before and grinded them out. Okay, spray some WD-40 or something on there, preferably like a few hours before, just like that. Now, next step. Alright, since I forgot the ball joint press, and most of you don't own one of them anyway, with the ball joint press, we usually cut the tang off the bottom here, and then use the press to push it out, and it's a little bit trickier putting back in, especially on the ground. Now, I may have to heat this, but if you had two big ball peen hammers, now wear special safety glasses and gloves, because we might get a shatter from the ball peen part here. Okay, now readjust this camera here. Now, if you had two, like obviously one bigger than this, you put one here and you hit on the other one like that, and you should be able to knock it out of there. What you want to avoid doing is marring up the side here, because that'll hinder it going through that control arm. Now, I'm going to try it with this, and I should put my gloves on, but here goes. I can't get a swing on it. Right. Can't get a swing as I'm scared of hitting the fender. And you see it moved. Now that's where the second hammer comes in. I just can't get the same swing on it. But it will come out eventually. There, just like that. Now go ahead and take a file, clean that up a little bit, especially this top edge right here. Now, I've even had to hone these out a bit to get the new ones in, so this makes life a little easier. Alright, next step. Okay, get your old one and your new one, compare height wise, and you want to compare that way, and you want to even look at the taper on the ball joint, because if you get these wrong, it won't seat down in there right, it won't go far enough, or it'll be too loose. Like if this is smaller than this one, it'll just rattle around. Now, you could put it down in the your spindle here and see if it fits good first before you try to put it in. So what the next step is going to be is we're going to try to force this in up from the bottom like that. Now, I see some guys taking the grinder and grinding this off a little bit so it's easier going up in there. I'm going to try it without it, and we'll see what kind of luck we have here. Okay, so if you're like me, I'm at home, I don't have a ball joint press to press this ball joint back in, which is tricky sometimes without wrecking the boot on it. I'll show you a little trick. I made up this piece of exhaust pipe, and I've bent the four corners in so it would catch just like that. Now, I don't have the clearance here to do it, but normally, like at work, I put the hoist down just at the right level. I use a floor jack like that, and I'd put this underneath on the floor jack right in the center, and I put the weight up on it to push it up like this in the hole, and I'd smash this really hard with a hammer. Usually, if you hit here and here, that'll pop up no problem. But since I don't have the clearance here to use that, we're going to try a bottle jack like this. Now I'm going to have to dig a little hole in there because we need quite a bit of distance here. So okay, I'm going to get this set up and I'll show you how it works. I put the other side in already like this, so I know it works. It's just going to take some doing. Hang on. Okay, so you've seen what I've done here. It's kind of a Mickey Mouse rig, but it will work. I did it on the other side. You just got to remember not to put too much pressure up, or this is going to go sideways on you. It'll go kunk, and it won't work. So, helps if you're dead on straight. So, anyway, you're just going to tap against here and here. And it may push the jack in the ground a little bit. Because I didn't take the knurling off of the ball joint, I might have a little bit of trouble here. I mentioned you should have earplugs on too. Oh, nice Princess Auto jack. Frig. Hell's up with that. It's going, but it's just being stubborn. Beat it some more. If you think this is going to damage the A-arm, well, it shouldn't be on the truck anyway if it does. Beat it like a red-headed stepchild. It works, just have to be patient with it. Whew. Now, you want to check, now if you can see this or not, you see if there's a gap between here. If there is, keep pounding. If not, then you're good. Now I'm just going to give her a couple little more, just to make sure. There, she's in. Might need a little bit more on the back side. You want to jack her up some more and do a little bit more. Just like so. Now she's in there. I didn't need any expensive tools or anything. Now you notice I've left the nut on the bottom so you wouldn't screw the threads up on the bottom of that. Yeah. Cheap. Now this next step, you got to put the lock ring on. If you don't have a pair of lock ring pliers, you can put it on without, but you need like to go like this and have a couple of screwdrivers. I don't know, maybe I can do it with one screwdriver. Let me try. I have a pair of lock ring pliers here, but I just want to show you how to do it without the tool. Lock ring pliers are so much easier, but it can be done without them, so don't be scared, especially if you got a buddy with you. Now when you're putting these grease fittings in, this one's a weird size. I think it's like 9mm, which no one makes a 9mm wrench. Anyway, you want to make sure it's either point it 45 this way or the back. You could put it like that, but it's kind of hard to get in there with when your axle's back in place. So I like to face them frontwards, but if it wants to go backwards, that's alright too. Never point it inwards like that, because you'll never get grease in it. Okay? And tighten it up. Alright, this next part's going to be a little tricky. Get rid of that because we don't need that anyway. Bottom nut. Make sure it's in your hand. Okay? Put the grease in after. Alright. Now you're going to have to start the snub in there first. Your axle in there. First off. Make sure you get no dirt in there. And pull it sideways like that. Now this is easier if you have a buddy. I don't know if you guys can see there. Pull up. You're going to have to hold it. Hang on, buddy. No. Hang on, dude. I can't. Kids. It just figures right at the last moment. Hang on. Okay, anyway. There you go. Now tighten that bolt up. Nut up. Usually they're a different size. The aftermarket one than the one you had before. Anyway, next step. Okay, line that hole up with the slots in the castle nut, because you need to put a cotter pin in there so it doesn't back off. And then just bend it around like that. Kind of want it up in there so it doesn't hit the rim. Now we're going to reattach the top one. Alright, next we're going to install the top one. Oh yeah, big mistake. Make sure your flex line is underneath this all. I'm gonna let that hang there for a second. Because you'll tear it back apart if you don't. You gotta find the right spot to pry on. Usually the shock tower, just like so. I believe that's 7/8, but same thing. Line up your cotter pin holes, the appropriate hole in the ball joint, and tighten her up. And you may have to hold down on this while you're tightening it with a wrench, because if you're using one, it could spin. So, all right. So after you've buttoned all this up, wire harness for the ABS back in place. I still have to put a cotter pin in mine right here. Caliper shoe, caliper, everything's torqued up to spec. You need to put your axle nut back on. Now, each truck, each year could be different torque spec. So mine is a certain torque spec. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I want you to look it up yourself, get the right torque spec. There's 3 ways to do this. Now, resist the urge to use the impact gun because you will wreck the wheel bearing. The first option is you can get someone inside the truck to hold the brakes, which keep your rotor from turning. That'll allow you to torque this up. Second, you could take the center of the rim and put the truck on the ground and leave it in park. Or third, you could take like a screwdriver or something to stick it in there and then torque it up that way. But anyway, regardless, you have to torque this up. If you don't, you're going to run into big problems down the road with the wheel bearings, and they're fairly expensive on some of these trucks. But anyway, that's last little bit. I need to clean this crap off. Looks like I put too much grease on it. I'm going to sand that off, and then I'm going to take it for a test drive. Anyway, if you like this kind of thing, please subscribe. If you're new to the channel, we have a thing called Tankenstein in the garage here. She's an old Bren gun carrier with a small block Chevy in it. That's a project and a half. Anyway, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and share it. It helps me out a lot when you guys share it. And always, I love your comments, so keep them up, guys. I'll talk to you later.